Hello and welcome. Today's video is going to be about the silver shortage and the potential for mining silver in space. Nothing in this video is financial advice. I'd like to start out by asking you a question. Do you think that the demand for silver will continue to exceed the supply in 2024? Please let me know in the comments below. The world is running out of silver. I wanted to talk about the idea that we can just start mining silver from space and that it will be easy and cheap. I have seen multiple comments online recently and even a YouTube video implying that once the Earth runs out of silver or low on silver, they will simply start mining it from space and the price will drop. The idea that this would be easy is not correct, and the idea that it would cause silver's price to drop is not accurate either. So think about this. The average distance from Earth to the asteroid belt is 204 million miles. The average trip to the asteroid belt would take over a year. Now ask yourself this. If it takes years to set up a mining operation on Earth, how long would it take in space? The asteroid belt is not dense with asteroids as it's often depicted, like in this image here. The objects in the asteroid belt are an average of 730,000 miles apart. The largest object out there is also considered to be a dwarf planet. It's called Ceres, and it's 587 miles across. Ceres makes up 25% of the total mass in the asteroid belt. So people might think, well, when a comet comes close to Earth, that would be our chance. Now think about this. Halley's Comet, for example, moves at 35,000 miles per hour. So just landing an object on one of these comets would be extremely challenging. Now the Earth is not still in space. The Earth moves through space at 67,000 miles per hour. So once you landed a craft on there, got the mining equipment out, started working, and eventually got your payload on the craft and got everything loaded back up, the odds are that Earth and that comet would be very far apart. As an example, I would like to use this. So here in this example, I've added Earth, and it would be rotating this direction. Let's just say the closest that the comet came to Earth was here, and it keeps moving at 35,000 miles per hour this direction, and Earth keeps rotating at 67,000 miles per hour that direction. You can imagine by the time the mining operation was done, it would be probably not very close to Earth anymore. Now, the way that we move objects through deep space is by using gravity to slingshot them. After you had loaded up a payload of silver ore, the weight of the craft would increase significantly. Now here's an example of some slingshots that they did with the Oceanic Observer, a large satellite that's out there in space, just to give you an idea of what these movements look like. And you're going to have to find a large gravitational mass out there, probably another planet, to slingshot it with to get it back in towards Earth. Otherwise, you're going to need to have a whole bunch of fuel on there. And the idea that this is something that would be simple is just incorrect. They would probably end up having to wait for a really long time for a large object to come around that they could slingshot back towards Earth. So just keep that in mind. The odds are that they would need to target another planetary body like possibly Mars, or they would go to the asteroid belt. And that trip would be no joke. This would be very challenging for humanity. So once it eventually got back to Earth, it would still have to be refined. Now, bear in mind, it cost $10,000 per pound to get stuff into orbit. So the cost of getting that mining equipment into space would be astronomical, pun intended. The idea that silver will be cheaper when it's being mined in space is totally crazy. If or when the day comes that silver is being mined in space, it will be very expensive. There is an international law referred to as the Common Heritage Principle that says the natural resources of the deep seabed and of outer space are held in common by all nations. So this really begs the question of ownership when it comes to asteroids like 16 Psyche, which is largely metal, mostly iron, but likely has precious metals in it as well. Overall, they think the asteroid belt is 80% rock and 20% metal. So let's say somehow a country or company gets the rights to an asteroid like 16 Psyche, which is very unique, potentially being the remains of a planetary core that was not allowed to form because of Jupiter's mass. What are they going to do with it? It's not like building a railroad across the country, and once it's in place, the freight just flows. Everything in space is constantly moving. Every trip will be unique based on the current orbits of that asteroid and the Earth. And the craft will only hold so much at a time. These trips would be long and would not be cheaper than mining on Earth. I saw an article that said, if they bring it back to Earth, referring to Psyche 16. I would be curious. How would they try to bring it back? With a solar sail? Okay, let's say hypothetically, you get a solar sail attached to Psyche 16 and it eventually gets moving at a reasonable speed to bring it back to Earth. Then what? Are they suggesting giving Earth another moon? To get an object of that size going the right speed and bringing it in at the right angle so it would catch Earth's gravity just right and orbit safely would be extremely challenging. And if a mistake was made, well, you know what happened to the dinosaurs. I'm sure it would not be good if it crashed into the planet. I really don't think they would decide to try and do that, even if humans had the ability to. Wherever you mined it, once you brought the contents, once you brought what you mined off that asteroid to the surface of planet Earth, a lot of countries potentially might feel like they have ownership rights to that stuff. So that could end up being a big problem for a mining company who decided to invest in mining Psyche 16. A quick noteworthy point, they are spending $967 million right now to send a probe to this asteroid just to take pictures of it. $967 million just to take pictures. This is going to take over 2 years for it to do. Psyche 16 is more like 230 million miles out there, so it's kind of deep in the asteroid belt. They're going to have to bring that probe in, at a wide sweeping angle to catch the slight gravity of this thing, wind it down close before they can start taking good pictures. So this is going to be a long process for them. About 26 months is what I had heard. And that probe, it can't take a payload with it. It can't take a sample. It can't do anything. All it can do is just take pictures. 967 million. The last thing I would like to touch on is refining in the metal in space as opposed to bringing it back to Earth first. Let me just say liquid metal in a zero-G environment would be nightmarish to say the least, and there would be significant challenges associated with refining it out there. So setting up a location to smelt it where there was some gravity to work with, like maybe Ceres, the moon, or Mars, would mean even more cost. So just to reinforce this point, once again, mining in space would not be cheaper than mining metals on Earth. If you got anything valuable out of this video, please hit the like button and please consider subscribing to my channel. The prize for my first giveaway went unclaimed. So I am going to be giving away 2 of these in the near future. Please be on the lookout for that. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.